Hi, this is Sharon from Mom at Last, and I don't know what happened. It just took me about 20 something minutes to even try to log on. I couldn't log on. We're having a major storm here down on the East Coast, on top of all the snow that we've had and the horrible, horrible weather. Today it's some major rainstorm, and I don't know if that's affecting the internet or what was happening, but I just could not get on. I was clicking and clicking and clicking, so I apologize. I'm sure no one's there anymore. Um, but the weather here has been freezing, unbelievable. And then today, of course, it's a big ice storm. Thankfully, it's not snow, but it has been an ice storm. So I apologize for anybody that's been sitting there. Right now, it says that I tried to connect like 10 times. So I'm here, frazzled, but I'm here because I didn't know what else to do. But thanks for coming to Mom at Last. I don't know if anybody's there, but I'll try to just start the show and talk a little bit about what I wanted to talk about. I'm excited to be back, and even though I'm 28 minutes late, I'm very excited to be back to Mom TV. I think this year we'll have a great show throughout the year, and we'll touch on a lot of different things, and hopefully, the weather will clear up and the internet and things out of my control will be working at all times. I wanted to talk today about surrogacy, and I'll just touch base on it really quickly. Right now, with all these celebrities out there, you're really hearing about the major surrogacy surge. From Joan London, I think was one of the first that did it back in 2003 at 54, and then she did it again a year later and had twins again. So sorry, I was just explaining that I am sorry that I am late. We're having a major storm here on the East Coast. I actually live in Delaware, but I have a second home here in Maryland, and that's where I am now. And that was what was happening. I just couldn't log on. So I was trying to be on time and trying to be here. So I was trying, and I apologize. But I thought today we could touch a little bit about what's happening with the world now in the surrogacy, which is just really on everybody's mind, and it's just discussed, it's talked about, it's out there. And right now, like back in 2003, like I was just mentioning, Joan London was the first, maybe a celebrity that was really out there discussing it. And since then, there's been Angela Bassett, there's been Sarah Jessica Parker, Nicole Kidman, as of yesterday, just became a new mom via surrogate. Elton John, which was a great, we heard around the Christmas holidays that he and his partner became parents because of a surrogate. Chris Daughtry's even having twins via a surrogate. His wife had complications, I think, on a different pregnancy and they went to the use of a surrogate. The soccer star Cristiano Ronaldo used a surrogate as well. And another good, nice story, I think, is this Neil Patrick Harris with his surrogacy. He and his partner, obviously they're a gay couple, they each donated sperm and they used a donor egg. And they had two that took, two eggs that took. So they put them in the surrogate mother, and they had twins. So one of the children is actually his, and one of the children is actually his partner. So that's a story out there that's really been happening. That there's a lot of options, especially for gay couples, if that's the route they want to go. That surrogacy is available. The states, everything varies in the state. There's different laws. You have to look into the state, and it usually means where the child is born. I just looked up Delaware, where I live, and they're saying that they think it's not allowed here. So it all depends on what your state is. There's certain states that won't allow compensation, and then there's compensation going in all these different areas. So it just really depends on the big state issue. One of the things I wanted to talk about was definitely India. India seems to be where everybody's really going. Here in the States, a regular surrogacy birth is about $70,000 to $100,000. And in India, you can go over there as a couple for about $30,000 and have your child. It's very popular. There's a lot of United States people taking advantage of this, and there's a lot of people out in England and Europe that are heading over to India for surrogacy. I've read some great stories. There's some great articles on the web about what's happening. Hopefully, with any good, there's always bad that comes into it. So hopefully that won't come into play. But, there was an article in Marie Claire magazine called Wombs for Rent. And what's happening are there are a lot of these women that are in India that are coming over, and they'll be getting paid between $5,000 to $7,000 to carry a child, and that $5,000 to $7,000 in their country can just change their lives basically almost forever. So it's really become popular there. Of course, now you see, if you really Googled it, if I ever took a second to Google it, you can see that there's companies everywhere. It's getting crazy. It's getting out of hand. But this article that they had in Marie Claire, they talked about this Dr. Patel. And in 2003, she had a woman, an Indian person that lived in India, want to carry the children for her daughter who was in Europe. And she successfully helped her do that. So it made national headlines. And because of that story, everybody basically uh, heard about that and said, oh, can I have that happen for me? So a lot of people have been hopping on the bandwagon and coming into India to have their children. The nice thing with India, it's pretty cut and dry. They will not use their own eggs. They just do not want to have any connection. Basically, they're just a vessel carrying the child. And it also states that a lot of these women, after they give birth, because it doesn't look like them, they're just actually carrying the child of somebody else. The connection's not really there. And they're put up in housing. A lot of it's looked at a little differently from their counterparts. They do it in hiding a lot. They do it in secret, but it can really change the world for someone that wants to have a baby, and for a good woman, it really, really, really can help change the life of a whole family there. So I wanted to talk about that, but with this whole internet thing, I got a little frazzled. I read actually a story of a woman from New Jersey that traveled over to India. She tried for 7 years to get pregnant with no luck. And then she looked for a surrogate here. And again, right now it's really being talked about, so I think it'll get easier as the years progress. But 4 or 5 years ago, when she was looking into surrogacy, she was having a hard time finding the right person here. People were pulling out. She was worried about the legalities. So she read this article about this Dr. Patel in India, and she traveled over to India to get pregnant. She went there. She talks about going into this deep, dark, scary place, basically sitting in a wooden shack with this doctor with long flowing hair, dressed in an all blue outfit. Just came in and very businesslike, came in, took the blood, um, introduced her to who would be the surrogate for her, and they were fortunate enough, and they uh, have a baby, a little baby Brady, and now the sister of the surrogate is going to be delivering their next child. So there are some wonderful, fascinating stories out there about the good of surrogacy and what you can do. Again, my story personally is adoption, and I feel that if there's a child out there, that's my personal opinion, and because of my wonderful, fantastic experience with that, I feel if there's children out there already waiting, that's always a good place to go as well. Um, and then I'm reading here that Florida mom said her neighbor had a problem pulling women out of the agreement. And that's exactly what I've heard. That's exactly what I've been reading in a lot of these stories, that here there's just been so many women pulling back. And also in the United States, there's been cases, more a couple years back, that the surrogate forms a connection with the child. And then there's a lot of legalities and a lot of laws. And I'm not saying that we should all run off to India to have our surrogates deliver the babies, but the stories in there that these women are changing the lives of the couples here that are struggling, and then you're changing, or the people that are using the surrogate are changing the lives of these women in India, because the amounts of money that they make, between 50 and 70,000, is just fantastic. They can never ever come across that 5 to 7,000. That changes their life forever. So there's a lot to think about. I'm interested in really finding out about more of what's going to happen as this is discussed. And again, now that it's out there with the celebrities and people are proud to say I had a surrogate, it's something that we hear about more. And it's something that if you Google it, probably 5 years ago, there would be a couple little things. If you Google it now, there's just so much information out there, and there's just so many interesting things out there about where you could go to find a surrogate. So I think the Indian thing is nice. And again, there's a lot of corruption, so you have to worry about that. Even, I'm on Twitter and I was typing in surrogacy, you could just see that there's so many people out there, and you wonder who has who's legitimate. So you have to do your homework. You really have to look into it. Hopefully, if you can use your own eggs with your husband's sperm that's just carrying it, then that's the route to go, because it's just really somebody being a vessel for your child. It's nothing else than a vessel. The connections that were formed with a lot of these women, with the people in India, and just said it was a life-changing event, something that will keep them close and bonded forever. One woman says that she wants to bring her Indian surrogate over here just to meet her son, just to explain to him that this is the reason you're here and this is the reason we have you. And I think as our children grow in this new world that we're in, it's something that's just going to be the norm. Back then adoption was the big scary thing where no one wanted to talk about adoption, and now, in vitro was just the big thing, and now all of a sudden that's discussed and that's talked about on a daily basis. And now, surrogacy, that was kind of secret and no one wanted to admit to it and no one wanted to say anything, and now that's out there and it's becoming out there as well. So there's a lot of options out there. Um, and there's a lot of avenues you can go. I'm trying on my website, Mom at Last, to really start bringing in some informative information about all the different roads that women take to become moms, not just surrogacy. Of course, there's egg donation too. And then with egg donation, that's if you had a problem with your own eggs, you can go. There's websites, there's books that you can actually go into and look. And I read that with that Neil Patrick Harris. He said that he and his partner actually were looking through books of who they could use as their egg donor. And they said it was actually funny. So there's women out there that are donating their eggs, and you can really look and find what type of woman you want to be an egg donor. So there's so many options out there. I just know back in the world when it was sperm donation, back way back when, but now it's egg donation. Um, Yes, so it says in vitro is discussed at dinner parties very openly. Yes, I've discussed it. I feel open. I'm not ashamed that I suffered infertility. I think everybody knows somebody that went through it, and personally going through infertility and in vitro, it just made me stronger, and it really, really, really made me appreciate my boys now. I think that I've said this before. However you get your children, no matter how they become to be your children, those are the children you're meant to have. So I'm proud that my boys traveled this long distance from Russia to be here in the United States and be my children. I appreciate them every day. I had a fantastic Christmas with them. I enjoyed every minute. My two kids now being age 4 and 5, it's just amazing how children can change your world and change your life. So however you get your child, be a surrogate,